I like Sweden. No, that's not true. I love Sweden, but that doesn't mean that I love everything about it. Sweden has beautiful nature and a high standard of living. And it's a cozy and convenient place. But it's a bit lacking when it comes to fun things to do. Don't get me wrong, we have some amazing tourist attractions in Sweden. Incredible museums, archipelagos that's perfect for island hopping, and a lot more. We also have historical sites, amazing art projects, and of course a lot of Viking artifacts. But there are also some slightly less amazing tourist attractions. In fact, some attractions in Sweden are totally useless and a complete waste of time. In this video, I'm gonna list the top 10 worst tourist attractions in Sweden, just in case you wanna know where not to go. The Sweden solar system is the biggest scale model of the solar system in the world, and it's an amazing project. It covers an area of 950 kilometers, and there are more than 60 different celestial bodies in the model. All the planets, of course, but also moons and comets and asteroids, and a monument representing the termination shock. The termination shock marks the outer boundaries of the solar system, and it's located far north in the town of Kiruna. Most of the planets are located closer to Stockholm though, like Mercury that can be found outside the Stockholm City Museum, or the Earth that can be found in the Museum of Natural History. But there's one planet in particular that you'd expect to be especially impressive. Jupiter, the biggest of the planets, is surely a sight to be seen, right? There's gotta be a really impressive installation of a huge planet somewhere, right? Well, not really. All you get is a ring in the ceiling at Arlanda Airport. The location is perfect. It would have been awesome to greet visitors to Sweden with a magnificent sight. But instead you get this underwhelming ring that doesn't make anyone happy. Jupiter might be one of the biggest and most impressive of the planets, but it's also one of the most disappointing tourist attractions in Sweden. There are many places in the world called the Blue Lagoon. One of the most famous blue lagoons can be found in Iceland, and others can be found in the Bahamas and on Malta, for example. There's also one in Hawaii, and there's even 8 cities in the world named Blue Lagoon. And of course, there's a Blue Lagoon in Sweden too. Actually, there's more than one Blue Lagoon. There's tons of them. Sweden is littered with blue lagoons, each one more underwhelming than the other. But the most famous blue lagoon in Sweden is the Blue Lagoon on Gotland. It's an old limestone quarry that's been converted into a lake, and it has a lovely turquoise hue to the water, like many other blue lagoons that are also old limestone quarries. It's a nice place. You can jump off the cliffs, and the water is warm and pleasant, and it looks really nice. But it's not all that special. Many Swedes listed among the must-do things on Gotland, and they paint it out to be some sort of incredible sight. But it's not. It's not a horrible tourist attraction at all. It's just overhyped and often overcrowded. And it's not worth making a special trip just to get to the Blue Lagoon. You've probably heard about Nessie, the Loch Ness monster, but did you know that Sweden also has a monster just like that? Storsjöodjuret, the Great Lake Monster, is a beast that's been harassing the people around Lake Storsjön for hundreds of years. The first written account of the beast was from the 1600s, and there's been hundreds of testimonies from people in the 1800s who saw the monster. So it sounds like a pretty exciting tourist attraction, doesn't it? Maybe you're imagining that you'll take a trip up to the lake and see all the monster exhibits at the museums, or take a monster sightseeing tour. Well, first of all, I hate to break it to you, but there is no monster here. Or at least there's no evidence for it, except for a hoax in the 1900s and some people who have seen a catfish or something. And secondly, there isn't really a big monster industry here. It's not like if you go to Area 51 and you can look at all the weird alien exhibits. Here it's just a quaint story with some statues and plaques that you can look at. I guess that the view by the lake is pretty nice, but that's about it. Looking for Storsjön is definitely one of the worst tourist attractions in Sweden. I love quirky little roadside attractions you can stop and have a look at. But some of these attractions are a bit worse than others. Along Road 32 between Mjölby and Boxholm, there's a statue of Saint Bridget of Sweden. In theory, this is a pretty cool thing. She's praying for the safety of drivers, and you can look up at her silhouette as you drive past. But it's a pretty crappy statue, and it's not even a proper statue, it's just a silhouette cutout. And there's no good place to stop along the road either if you want to have a closer look at her. Or, well, you can stop a bit off and then walk closer alongside all the speeding cars. But when you get close, you see that there's no place where you can get a good shot of her. It's like they designed this attraction to look as bad as possible from below. Either way, it's an interesting curiosity at best, and at worst, it's one of the worst tourist attractions in Sweden. Let's go back to the Sweden solar system. The center of the solar system is of course the sun, and it's represented by the Globe Arena in Stockholm. The globe features some striking architecture. It's pretty unique in its design. But it's also just an arena with nothing else to see or do around it. Oh wait, I forgot that you can take a ride in the overpriced Sky View ride and get a nice view of Stockholm. But you can get a good view of Stockholm from Skinnerviksberget or Monteliusvägen or Fjällgatan as well, for free. The globe is one of the most famous features of Stockholm, but it's actually quite boring. And even if the design is striking, quite a few people also find it pretty ugly. The Globe Arena sticks out like a pimple in the south side of Stockholm, and it's a pretty miserable tourist attraction in Sweden. The town of Borlänge has been voted the ugliest city in Sweden. And yeah, this is not it, this is Stockholm. But yeah, I guess that really says everything, doesn't it? The ugliest city in Sweden, that's gotta be a pretty bad tourist attraction. It's not super ugly per se, but people have been upset that they tore down the old nice architecture and exchanged it for ugly concrete blobs. It's not the ugliest buildings that I've ever seen, but the town does look a bit dull and soulless. Borlänge claims that they have a good standard of living in the town though, and that people are happy there. So I guess that just proves that looks aren't everything, something that I'm immensely happy for myself. But it's still a place to avoid if you're looking for tourist attractions in Sweden. The high coast features some of Sweden's most beautiful scenery, and it's filled with amazing hiking trails. And you can also find fascinating art villages and museums and a lot more. The high coast isn't one of the worst tourist attractions in Sweden, in other words. But the high coast art valley that lies in the high coast, well, that's a different story. The website claims that the High Coast Art Valley offers a cultural experience that further enhances the magnificence of the High Coast. Well, I'd say that someone's nose grew quite a bit when they wrote that. The Art Valley features a lot of different art installations, and you can walk around and explore all of these lovely sculptures. The problem is that it's spread out over a huge area, so you really have to pick and choose which ones to have a look at. And when you finally get to one of the installations, you're met with an underwhelming art project that you look at for maybe a minute until you're bored. The High Coast Art Valley is a great idea, but it's just not worth making a detour for. The art is okay, but it's too spread out and inaccessible. Basically, the concept of the place is great, but the execution leaves a lot to be desired. So skip it. The High Coast Art Valley is unfortunately one of the worst tourist attractions in Sweden. I have to apologize to the next entry in this list. In the outskirts of Stockholm, there's a laundry museum, and I've made fun of this museum quite a number of times. I don't mean to single out this museum in particular, but it's just such a good example of a really boring tourist attraction. I mean, a laundry museum. Out of all the things you can make a museum out of, this isn't the most interesting thing to choose. It could just be that this isn't my thing. Maybe you're gonna love this museum. But for me at least, this is an example of one of the most boring tourist attractions in Sweden. Let's have a look at some more laundry clips and tell me in the comments if you think I'm right or wrong about this one. In the west of Sweden, in the province of Värmland, there's a small town called Årjäng. It's a town of 3,000 people, and there's really not much to say about Årjäng, except that they have a huge troll in the middle of town. It all started in 1971 when a Swedish artist called Tore Skogman recorded an album dedicated to Värmland and to the town of Årjäng. It was called Årjängs troll, the trolls of Årjäng, and it referred to the trolls that supposedly live out there in the woods. Long story short, after that, the town of Årjäng, together with Tore Skogman, managed to create an 8-meter tall troll to have as a tourist attraction in the town. It acted as a tourist information spot, as well as a scene where people could dance old-time dances, and it was really popular for a while. People traveled from all over Sweden to dance in front of the Årjäng troll. But eventually, people's taste in music got better, and they also realized that the town of Årjäng lies really far away. As in, it's in the middle of nowhere, close to the Norway border, and there's nothing to see out there except for that troll. And the town of Årjäng realized that as well, so they moved the troll to a less prominent location in 2008. These days, it's an interesting curiosity, but it's not a tourist attraction that draws people from near and far. If you happen to drive past Årjäng on the way to Norway or something, then sure, it might be fun to have a look at the troll. But if not, avoid this bygone tourist attraction. In fact, it's so far off that I haven't been there myself. It's the only tourist attraction in this list that I haven't visited. It's that much of a useless tourist attraction. Now, before the top spot, let's talk about some honorable mentions, or rather dishonorable mentions. Big sculptures are always fun to see. It can be something that attracts people and brings a smile to their face. Unless that sculpture happens to be a potato in the middle of a roundabout. The really big potato sculpture in the town of Mjölby is completely useless and ugly. Avoid it. Some other really bad attractions include Sweden's lowest point in the town of Kristianstad, the Öresund Bridge, and the Boulevard Avenyn in Gothenburg. But let's talk about something really bad, something worse than all of those. Sarek National Park is extremely remote, and there's not really a lot to do out here. There are no roads, no electricity, no civilization. All there is some completely amazingly mind-blowing views. I'm just messing with you. Sarek is definitely not one of the worst tourist attractions in Sweden. Put down those pitchforks and let's move on to the next proper item in this list. Sweden is a pretty long country, 1,600 kilometers or 1,000 miles. The edges of a country often make for interesting tourist attractions, like Sweden's most southern point. That point is called Smygehuk, and it's a pretty cute attraction to visit if you're in the vicinity. It's not really anything special, but it's fun to look at the crashing waves and wave to Denmark on the other side. Sweden's most northern point is a place that should be just as interesting, or even more so, because it's a place where Sweden, Norway and Finland meet. It's called Treriksröset, the three-country cairn, and it's a spot that allows you to experience midnight sun in summer or polar night in winter. But getting there isn't as easy as getting to the southern point. There are no roads that lead to the three-country cairn, and the closest village is in Finland, 11 kilometers away. So if you want to visit Sweden's most northern point, you first have to travel thousands of kilometers and then walk through mosquito-infested terrain to get there. You could reach it from Sweden too, but then you'd have to walk through 70 kilometers of barren wilderness instead. I think the Finland option is a little bit better. And once you arrive at the three-country cairn, all you see is a lake and a big yellow concrete blob. This is it. This is what I traveled all this way for. Was it worth it? What do you think? Useless waste of time. Why did I even come here? This is definitely one of the worst tourist attractions in Sweden. And that's about it for this list of the top 10 worst tourist attractions in Sweden. I'm pretty sure that I pissed off a ton of people with this video. Make sure you leave an angry comment if you disagree with any of my choices. That's of course a thinly veiled attempt at making you interact with the video. If you dislike my pitiful attempts at manipulation, leave a comment about that too. Either way, like and subscribe, or dislike and subscribe, but most importantly, have a great day.